Hello, beautiful visionary tribe. This is Lorna Liana, host of the Entheo Nation podcast and the Modern Shaman Summit, where we explore how we can access ancient earth wisdom to navigate our complex modern lives and become the visionary leaders, healers, and light workers that we are meant to be. The Modern Shaman Summit is a place where indigenous wisdom and modern culture meet, and new earth warriors are born. I'm so happy to bring to you today a sister entrepreneur from my digital nomad community. Her name is Yamile Yemoonyah, and she is a certified spirit guide coach and the author of the upcoming spirit guide book. She helps her clients connect and consciously communicate with their own spirit guides in order to facilitate healing and alignment with the purpose of their current incarnation. Welcome to the Modern Shaman Summit, Yamile.
Thanks so much for having me, Lorna.
So I want you to share with the audience here this amazing place that you're in right now.
So I came to do this or start this business because 16 years ago, I was sleeping just normally, didn't think about anything, didn't even believe in spirit guides or anything like that. And I woke up and saw a man standing in the door of my bedroom, and I was shocked, obviously. He wasn't wearing any shirt. He was just wearing jeans, no shoes, no socks, just staring at me and standing there. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know this guy. How did he even get in here? And I just stared at him, and he stared back at me. And I couldn't move. And at some point, he somehow out of thin air materialized this like red glowing ball that he had in his hand, and he looked at me and he threw it over to me, and I could feel it land on the left side of my bed. And then I blacked out. And the next thing I knew was that I woke up the next morning, and without even thinking, my left hand went to like the left side of my bed and tried to like find that red glowing ball. And then my brain kicked in, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't even know what that was. And then I really woke up and I was like, what the fuck was that? That was so weird. And now comes the kicker. Like the next, I think it was 2 days later, I was going to a shamanism workshop because I got interested in my indigenous roots back then. And I signed up for that shamanism workshop to find out more. And I get there. And the teacher, the first thing he teaches us is how to travel to the spirit world and meet your spirit guides. And he explains to us how it works, and then says, okay, so after you are there in the spirit world, you usually meet your spirit guide, and the first thing they will do is give you some kind of energy. And they will oftentimes do that by either hugging you or giving you a red glowing ball. And I was like, oh my God, so this must have been my spirit guide. And this is the only teacher that ever told me this. I've never heard this anywhere else. But so, yeah, that was my awakening to the spiritual world. And I've never looked back ever since. And that was when I realized, okay, there's more to this world than just the physical world that Western science wants us to believe in. So that's how I got started.
Mm-hmm. So fast forward now, you're in a castle.
Oh, yeah.
Where are you right now? You're in a castle somewhere in Europe.
I'm in southern France in a castle with 12 other people. We're all writing on our books. I'm writing my book about spirit guides, and the others are writing their novels and other books. And it's really exciting, although it's a little cold.
I know. I saw the photos. It looked amazing. And I said, can I go join you guys? And you said, only if you bring your princess outfit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh, I don't have a princess outfit, but I have a tribal outfit. I don't know if
that works. That totally works. There's even bats in our castle. Like in the attic, we have bats that live there.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so I love bats. I really do. The big fruit bats of Bali are fascinating, and they're so huge, and they're really cute, and they eat fruit, which makes me feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm curious to know about, the world of shamanism. We accept the existence of many, a whole multitude of non-embodied beings that we can communicate with if we so choose. Some of those beings are positive and wish for our well-being and are helpful and give us wisdom and healing. And others are not so helpful. They might be parasitic. They might actually trouble us or bother us. We might have some karmic debts with those beings. So I'm curious to know, like, what exactly is a spirit guide, and how do we recognize whether a being is our guide or something else?
So, yes, there are different kinds of beings. And if you want to know if a being is your spirit guide, you have to go by feeling. So if you feel love, like if you feel that their guidance is based on love, then you can listen to them and you can like follow their guidance. But just like with any other friendship, you don't give anyone your money right away, or you don't let anyone into your house right away. The same goes for spirit guides. So the first time you connect with a non-worldly being, you want to pay attention to their energy. You want to pay attention to what they have to say, what their message is, what their guidance is. If it's not based on love, but they make you be afraid or fear things, then they are not for you. And you can just say, well, thanks for your guidance, but I don't think I want to connect with you any longer. And then you just cut the cords and that's it.
That's really good to know that you can actually choose who you want to interact with and cut cords.
Yes, absolutely. And if you are afraid that you can't do it yourself, you can, for example, call on like your protective spirit guides. Everyone has one. You can call on your on Archangel Michael, for example. He's known to be really good for cutting cords. And yeah, just call in help from the spirit world, and they will protect you. And also, an exercise that I like to do to protect myself is when I meditate. I will imagine that I draw in the sun through my seventh chakra and into my third chakra, and then imagine that this sun inside of me gets bigger and bigger, and the light pushes out everything that is not connected to me in love. Anything that's in my body or in my aura gets pushed out through the light, and then I surround myself with let's say a bubble, and the bubble, I can see through it. But from the outside, only people who are also connected to me in love can see inside. Everyone who's based on fear can only see their own reflection because it's like a mirror on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's a really good protective exercise to do for sure. Yeah. So what are the different kinds of spirit guides that we can connect with?
There are all kinds. There are different definitions as well, and I have to go into that for a little bit because, for example, in spiritualism, which is a religion mostly in England but also in the US, they define spirit guides as beings that have lived as human beings on Earth, but now moved on to the spirit world, but are still helping humanity. So in spiritualism, spirit guides can only be beings that have been human beings before. Then you can also look at how shamanism or different shamanic traditions define spirit guides, and that's very different. Especially in traditional shamanism, every culture has different spirits that they work with, that their shamans work with. And then you have, of course, neo-shamanism, and there it's like spirit guides are usually defined as either power animals or deceased loved ones, ancestor spirits, and sometimes gods and goddesses. In my definition, it's a little bit different. I also count any being that's higher evolved and that wants to help us as spirit guides. So, for example, there are angels. I count them as spirit guides. I count the ascended masters. These are like the human beings that have been here before and now help us from the other side. Yeah, the power animals. Famous ones are, of course, bear spirit or wolf spirit or jaguar spirit. Then you have nature spirits, which can show themselves as elves or fairies or gnomes or dwarves. Dwarves are really good for money, by the way. So if you have one like that, that's awesome. Then you have your ancestor spirits, who, yeah, are your ancestors. Can be ancestors that you knew. These are really good for helping with family issues, like if you have issues with your children, for example. Your grandma who passed over might be great to help with that. But it can also be ancestors that are way back, like generations back, or it can be even ancestors from different lives. So if you were a monk in a former life, you could work with your ancestors that you had then. And then there's a subgroup with the ancestor spirits. These are the professional ancestors. So, for example, if we do priestess work in this life, then we might call on someone who was a priestess in a former life, who might not be your ancestor, but they can help you with your priestess work in this life. And then you have the gods and goddesses. For example, I like to work with Yemoonyah, or Mami Wata, she's also called. That's the goddess of the oceans. Or you could be working with Venus or with Odin. Odin is really good for opening your third eye. And then we have the star beings, also called aliens, but I like to call them star beings because aliens sound scary to a lot of people. And also, if we think about aliens, we always think about the Greys with the big head and the big But these can be spirit guides, but some star beings are not even 3D. They are more multidimensional, and that's why I like to call them star beings. So these 7 kinds of spirit guides fall in my definition of spirit guides.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then, is there any kind of revelation that one can discover if you tend to see one group of spirit guides versus another?
So yeah, sure. Like if you think back to your childhood, then you can often discover which kind of spirit guide is working with you. For example, some of us had invisible friends. We would go out into the garden and play with what we saw as fairies, and then we would run inside and tell our mom, I was playing with the little lady that lives in the flower, and our mom would be like, right, that doesn't exist. And so we forget about that. But the same thing could happen with, let's say, an angel. Like a lot of little children will see angels, especially when they go to sleep. Or they will see their deceased grandmother who comes to read them stories at night. And so if we think back to our childhood, we can try to remember these experiences that we had. And these will often be the spirit guides that are with us for a lifetime. There are also other spirit guides that only come in for a specific task that we have to do, or a specific problem that we have. But so yeah, thinking back about your childhood. Also, what kind of, like, if you had a teddy bear that you totally loved, maybe your spirit guide is a bear spirit. That was my case, for example. And then you can also basically look at your own personality. Like, what kind of person are you? Do you love being out in nature? Then you're probably connected to nature spirits. Are you someone who's totally into technology and very focused on the mind and are very cerebral? Then you are probably connected to star beings. And then you can also look at what kind of books are you drawn to. Do you love to read about, like, the saints from the Middle Ages? Are you connected to stories about aliens? So just think about where your interests are, and then you can find out what kind of spirit guide you are connected with.
Okay, so it starts with identifying your interests or inclinations first?
Yeah.
Okay, so before you've ever even had any interaction with a spirit guide, you look at your inclinations and interests. So
Yeah,
that's
if you don't know who your guide is, then that's a good way to find out.
okay, that's really interesting because I've always been kind of like a cerebral person and like to read a lot of books. I'm obviously on the computer a lot because that's how the kind of work that I do. And what you just shared with me kind of makes sense because the beings that I typically see or I often see in my medicine journeys are what I intuitively see as star beings, and it's kind of interesting because there's also a relationship between these star beings that I see and the art of ancient Egypt. So I often see like this whole family of beings that have, they're like human in form. They're incredibly beautiful. They're beautiful, regal, they're human, and they have these beautiful like bird wings, and they often have like a bird head, but sometimes they kind of like, morph between a human face and like a bird headdress or a bird head. So it kind of goes back
Right.
and forth, And I've had such repeated experiences, of perceiving them. And when I do have these experiences, when I'm crossing into the spirit world, and I perceive these beings, it's almost like I have, it's like a homecoming. It's like a homecoming where it feels like they're my family. They are, I feel loved. I feel like they're, whatever it is that I'm doing here is like this, mission that I signed up for. And that when I'm done with this mission here on this earth, then when I go back to source or cross over, then I will go back to this family. And I always have this sense that this class of beings is not like earthbound. So
Yeah.
so that's really interesting. So for many of us who work with visionary medicines, sometimes we tend to perceive our spirit guides more readily in this enhanced consciousness space. I'm curious to know, Yamile, for those of us in the audience who haven't had experiences with visionary medicines or don't want to because they know it's not their path, how do you recommend that now we start, communicating with our spirit guides and possibly seeing them? Because the beauty of being in the visionary state is you can actually see them. It's like, wow, it's like very detailed, beautiful colors and designs and all that. It's kind of like, it's like a photograph or being in a movie. But when we're in the waking realm, it's kind of a little bit harder to kind of see that technicolor, that technicolor perception. So what do you recommend?
So the first thing I want to say is that spirit guides speak to you as loudly as you are willing to listen. So you have to open yourself up to the possibility to even see them or hear them or perceive them in some other way. So what I recommend is, first of all, sit down every day for 10 minutes or 15 minutes or 20 minutes, but it's okay if you just have 10 minutes and meditate. And what a lot of people think of when they think about meditating is they think that they have to have no thoughts in their head, but that's not even the point. So you just have to sit down for 10 minutes and be quiet and just listen to yourself and just listen to your breath and feel your breath going through your nose and into your belly. And if your thoughts wander, no problem. Just notice what you're thinking about and bring it back to your breath. And the point of this is the whole 10-minute meditation every day is to first understand your own energy and feel your own energy. Because if you know your own energy, then you also know when there is someone else in your aura. So that would be the next step. Once you understand your own energy and know what it feels like to just be with yourself, then you can start asking your guides to come close when you meditate. And you might not see them right away or hear them right away, but you can just ask them, okay, come close so I can feel you. And don't scare me, because a lot of people are scared to see their guides. So just tell them, I want to feel your energy. I want to get to know you better, but don't scare me. So don't appear physically in my room. And do that for a little while. Do that for the next 3-4 weeks. And once you understand what how they feel energetically, then you can start asking for more. Then you can start asking for messages, or that they send you symbols. And you also have to understand that not everyone is clairvoyant. Like you seem to be very clairvoyant because you have very clear visions. Not everyone has that. And that's not even very important because there are other ways. Some people are clairvoyant. Some people are clairaudience. That means they hear their guides better. Others are clairsentient. That means they feel the energy. These are the people that are empaths. These are the people that go out into a room and then feel other people's energy and their emotions. So if someone is in the room is really sad, then people will start crying and they don't even know why. So they will feel their spirit guides more. So their spirit guides will communicate with them in feelings. Then you have the people that are clairgustant. That's not very... That doesn't happen very often, but it does happen.
What did you say? They're
clairgustant. So that means
clairgustant.
That means they can
Taste.
Taste. Yeah. So their spirit guides will communicate with them through taste. So a lot of cooks, for example, will have that, or generally foodies. I mean, I know you like good food, so maybe you have that as well. So next time you have your visions, try to not just focus on the vision, but also go through all your other senses to see what you pick up there. It can be really interesting. And then you have also clairscent, which is like smell. And a lot of people will have that, especially when it comes to ancestor spirits, especially if they actually knew them in real life. For example, they smell their grandfather's cigarettes, or they smell their grandmother's perfume, even though they know that's not possible. But so when you smell that, you know, okay, this is like my spirit guide is close to me. And then you have claircognizance, which is you just know things. And that's a lot of entrepreneurs have that because they are like people that have great ideas. They are idea people. So they will often have this thing that they just know the information. They just know what their spirit guide looks like, even though they don't see that guide. So again, like think about yourself, who you are, what kind of personality you have, and then you can see for yourself which of the 6 clairs fits your personality, and then work with that instead of trying to force something that's not your style. And then once you figure out like your main clair and work with that, you can then start working also with the other clairs. So if your main clair is, for example, clairaudience, and you hear your spirit guide more, like sometimes people wake up in the middle of the night, and because they think someone called their name, and they will be, what? But no one's here, but they heard that. That's your spirit guide, for example. So if that is your thing, work with that first, and then start working on your other clairs. And you can just ask your spirit guides, like, I would love to see you better. Can you help me with that?
What are some of the things that you can do to improve your relationship with your spirit guide?
Improve your relationship is just like with any other friendship or relationship, is basically talk to them. Like you call your friend regularly. You can't call them, but you can sit down and pray, for example. And when you pray, don't pray in the way that you say, please, 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 whatever it is you want, send me more money or whatever. What you want to do is like assume that they are there, and you thank them for their guidance and their help. So instead of saying, please do this for me, you say, thank you for being here, and thank you for guiding me towards more abundance, for example. So that makes a difference because if you say please, you come from a place of lack. And if you already assume that they're here and helping you, you have the same vibration, and so you attract it more.
I really like that advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that I just want to highlight that too. I think we have often become conditioned to ask for otherworldly help. And I think that also that approach can really be disempowering. It creates that separation between where we are, where they are, and then, just kind of it creates that power imbalance that we're never really good enough or always needing something. So I like that. And this is a great metaphor for all of life, really, is to always approach things with gratitude first. It's a practice.
Yeah.
So, if you're not, if you're not perfect with that practice, then don't beat yourself up. It is a practice. It's a nice reminder, and yeah, I would say that gratitude for spirit, gratitude for the elements, gratitude for fire, for water, for all these things that we often take for granted will actually open up a lot of blessings, and abundance, and magic in your own life.
Yeah. One thing that I do is when I lived in Barcelona for a while, as you know, and my roommate is very Catholic, and she gave me a rosary. And so now I use the rosary and I go through it every morning, and for every bead in the rosary, I come up with something that I'm grateful for. So I think it's like 56 different things every morning that I have to come up with. And that really helps me to start the day with a really positive attitude.
Yeah, another nice thing to do is if you have clarity over who one of your guides is, then have a replica of that guide on your altar, for example. So I remember there was a time where, Isis was really coming through for me in a big way. And so I had, all this, Isis statuary on my altar, and, and it was just kind of really nice just to remember, her presence.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Then also another way to advance your communication with your spirit guides is to start a symbol dictionary. So because specific things mean something else to you than to someone else. For example, a rosary to someone who's very Catholic might mean something very else than it does to me. To me, it's about gratitude. For someone else, it might be all about Christ. So what you want to do is basically learn a new language that you can speak with your spirit guides. So either use a notebook or use Evernote or whatever you want, and write down the things that you saw. For example, a lot of people get the 1111 from their spirit guides, and then write it down, like 1111, and write down what you felt when you saw it, what happened when you saw it, and what it meant to you in that moment. Just do the same thing, for example, feathers. A lot of people find feathers and connect them with their spirit guides. But again, it means something else for everyone. So write it down, what it means. And then you start building the symbol dictionary, and it helps you to communicate with your guides much better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing I say is that there's incredible strength and confidence that comes into your life when you know beyond a doubt that you are accompanied by a powerful protector spirit that has you in their best interest. And I remember when my animal guide came through, when my power animal came through, that was happened a long time ago in Peru. I was doing a solitary dieta in the primary forest outside of Pucallpa, and basically just in a little tambo above a beautiful rushing river, and drinking ayahuasca by myself. And at one point, she came, and it was just like this amazing vision. And then she's been with me ever since, and I just kind of feel like whatever I do in life, she's always there, like going to the grocery store, or just kind of like sitting on the sofa. It's just kind of like this wonderful thing. And sometimes I learned this from a coach that I had who I worked with doing NLP for a while, and he tuned me into sometimes if you have any doubts around you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your own judgment, then just turn to your spirit guide and say, what do you think? And then if she kind of starts to growl, and then her ears go back, and I'm just like, okay, I guess not then.
Yeah. So you see your guides very visually, right?
Yeah, I feel her and I see her visually, and when I walk around and do my thing, I feel her walking next to me. So So yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like that wonderful science fantasy series, The Golden Compass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you got to read that. Yeah, it's like everybody has their daemon. So for
Yeah.
me, like that experience that is written about so wonderfully in the book is now
Mm.
my real experience in life. So
Yeah.
I wish that for everybody here to connect with your guide and to walk through the world knowing that you are indeed protected and loved, and that there is somebody watching over you.
Absolutely. Actually, there's most people have more than just one guide. Most people have a
Yes,
whole team of guides.
you're an entourage.
Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. So we're at the end of our session. I'd love to ask you about the free gift that you have for our audience.
Of course. So I have a free spirit guide quiz for you that you can take, and then it will tell you what kind of spirit guide you have. So what kind of the 7 ones it is. The questions are very much lifestyle questions, so that helps you to figure it out. And you can find it at spiritguideschool.com.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much. And how can people best stay in touch with you, Yamile?
Again, just go to spiritguideschool.com and there's a contact form and contact me. Ask me anything you want. I'm happy to help.
Okay, great. All right. I want to wish you a beautiful rest of your day in your castle in the south of France. And I look
Yes.
forward to seeing you again in person, hopefully when I go back to Spain.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.